Hello. Oh man, there was something in the back of my throat there. Hello and welcome back to the Elisa's laughing at me. Welcome back to the Pixel Street podcast. This is episode 214, where we are going to talk about our games of the year this past year. So I typically do it different than John because John plays a lot more games than me. So like for me, I don't know my official list. It's just kind of like 5 games that I love that I played,
Mhm.
and mine aren't necessarily games that came out this year either.
Okay,
So it's
that's
just
cool.
like because like there are some like I don't know. John's job is literally to play games and write about them. So like obviously he's played a lot of games that came out this year, and for me, not necessarily the case. Although I think that this year mine are all games that came out this year, which is surprising.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
good for you. You did it.
Um, I did it. I did it. But yeah, at any rate, feel free to follow us on Twitter at Pixel Street. Check out our pin tweet there to join our Discord server, where we're always posting about what we've been playing, what we plan on playing. We post news. John just posted a link. I guess that was a private thing of a leaked Switch OLED that got posted online today. So yeah, we're just always posting about stuff like that. So check it out. Check out the Discord. Also, check us out on YouTube by searching for Pixel Street Videos over there or youtube.com/Pixel Street Videos. John posts sometimes his reviews that he reviews for GamePer.com, along with he makes list videos. We have some unboxings up there, so definitely check that out if that's something that would interest you.
And Joel's gonna start streaming again at some point in the future,
In the new
hopefully.
year, in the new year, I'm gonna do
The
it.
new year. All right.
Mark my words, in the new year. Next week I'll stream at least twice
What are you
outside of the
streaming?
podcast.
What are you
What am I
streaming?
streaming? That's a good question.
Would it would it
I
be something on this device here? This little
I don't know. I don't know if that's what I want to stream first. Something from the analog pocket. I'm not sure. It would be cool to start playing through all the Pokemon games again on stream.
Mhm.
I beat one gym I think on Pokemon Red so far, so it'd be cool to pick that up where I'm at and just kind of keep going. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I do still want to beat Psychonauts 1. I started playing through all that
Oh
and gave
yeah.
up on that. So maybe that might be a good game to start at. Is
And we
finishing
got
that up.
and you gotta play Breath of the Wild before Tears of the Kingdom comes out.
Yeah, I do. I do. I'm not it's not that I don't want to either. Like I legitimately want to beat the game. I'm at the very end. I'm just too dumb to do it.
Yeah.
Especially at this
And at
point I
this
haven't
point
played the game.
you're also
It,
gonna forget how to play.
exactly. At this point I haven't played the game in a year. So
Mhm.
yeah, definitely be on the lookout for those live streams on our YouTube channel as well as my Twitch. So yeah. What else were we gonna say? What else are we talking about, John? Anything else before we
Uh,
just
we
start talking
mentioned
about our games of
Discord.
the year?
Yeah, I mean that's it. Let's just get into our top 5 games of the year. Yeah, I've got mine in a list. I've also got a list of honorable mentions that are maybe not like the absolute must plays, but like games I recommend you give a try if you're interested in them. So yeah.
Cool. And also it's worth noting some of the games on my list aren't necessarily games I beat, just because I don't like I can enjoy a game and not have beaten it. You know what I mean?
hmm
So yeah, you want to start? You want me to start? Hold on.
Whatever you're up to, I can start.
All right, go ahead. I'm adding a game to mine. So
Oh, all right. Well,
sorry.
my go starting at number 5. My number 5 game of the year is a game that I recently got into and that I've been playing a lot. Vampire Survivors. So I've talked about it before. When I first played it, I didn't really understand what all the buzz was about it, and then I went back to it and played some more. And man, Vampire Survivors is really addicting. I haven't played it much in the last week because I was putting so much time into it over the last couple of weeks that I was kind of getting tired of it. So I'm taking a little bit of a break from it now, but I'm definitely going to go back at some point. I think it's a perfect game to play on xCloud to get those achievements and stuff. while I'm laying in bed. Um, I know it also has a mobile port, but I want the achievements, so I'm gonna keep going with that. It runs so well. It's it's probably as addicting of a like simplified game as I've played in a very long time because it's literally just move around and avoid enemies while your guy just attacks automatically. Like there's a little bit of positioning and stuff that you need to take account of, and you have to choose what upgrades and items you're grabbing along the way. But man, it's just simple fun, and I really fall for these games that make you like the badass, like unkillable machine. It's why I love Doom so much and games like that. It's just I love to just overwhelm enemies like in Vampire Survivors. When you have everything upgraded and evolved, there's not much like it. It's just it's a complete power trip.
Yeah, so this game is definitely one of my honorable mentions. Because like you said, like the other night, I wasn't like we. The reason we're recording the podcast on a Friday is because I wasn't feeling good, and I was just laying in bed playing Vampire Survivors on my Steam Deck via. Did I say Steam Deck? Yeah, via on my Steam Deck via XCloud, which and it works flawlessly. Like it's so it's like the perfect game to play via XCloud, like you said, because latency isn't really an issue. Another thing I like about it is like you said, when you feel unbeatable, but then out of nowhere, like you kind of like you right, you feel unbeatable in the sense that like you can kind of just stand there and everybody's dying around you, but then out of nowhere you look and you're like, oh shit, I'm at half health. What happened?
Yeah,
And
I'm
it's
getting
because they
completely
said
overwhelmed. Yeah,
yeah, it's because they're sending like more enemies at you or tougher enemies at you. Um, but yeah, that game is just it's a great time. I love it.
absolutely. Unfortunately, it's so simple of a game that there's not much more to say about it. So you can go ahead and give your number five.
So my number five is Destiny, the Witch Queen,
Okay.
which is
Did
kind of
that come
like
out this
not.
year?
It did. It came out in February of this year.
Okay.
So it was just a ton of fun to play through that DLC. Um, we also had a ton of fun like with my raid group with like Chad, Jerica, Audrey, Matt, and Dallas. Doing that raid, the new raid, like over and over again. Um, yeah, I don't know. I love Destiny. It's right now it's not in the best place just because the new season is kind of weak, and I mean like that's pretty typical with the game where like it has its highs and lows. Like they can't please the fan base every time they have a new season, but they have a new big DLC coming out this spring that called Lightfall that hopefully is good, like another big DLC like the Witch Queen. So yeah, the Witch Queen DLC from Destiny 2 takes my number 5 spot.
All right. Awesome. Yeah, that if anyone that's stuck around with the podcast knows that's not much of a surprise because you still have your like weekly raid group on Sundays. So
Yeah.
um
I'm I'm
Destiny
I'm going I'm going to Universal Studios with these people in a month.
oh yeah, that's right. Um really? Is that a month away? Oh yeah, February.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
wow.
February 17th.
Um yeah, Destiny does kind of seem to go through it's like I don't, I won't really say it's I guess kind of it's lulls, but like when they gear up for that big season, it is really all you hear the Destiny crowd talk about. Like people like you and your raid group is like all they talk about for a good month, I'd say.
Yeah.
So
It's a
yeah.
good game. Good game.
All right. My number four game of the year is Cult of the Lamb. This is a game that I wasn't too sure about at first, and I think you recommended it to me, and I gave
I
it a try, and
did.
I absolutely loved it. I we've talked a lot in the past how we're not much for the roguelite games. But this game, I don't know, it's got those roguelite tendencies, but
It's not full on.
it's not full on there. I loved managing my cult and raising it up. I would spend just hours in there so I could gather up all the like upgrade points that you could get and doing all my sermons. I
You
would
know what's
just
funny is I recommended this game to you, and I barely played any of it. I played like 4 hours maybe,
Mhm.
and I that's kind of where I stopped, just because like I didn't have the time to play it at the time. I definitely want to go back and play through it. I wouldn't say this is one of my honorable mentions, but I love the art style and like the combination of the art style and what the game actually is just kind of hilarious to me. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's a
Yeah,
cool game.
I don't know how much time I put into it. It was quite a bit though, and I beat it, and I never got tired of it. Like even though a lot of it is doing the same things over and over again, it's just go through this, kill these enemies, grab resources, come back to your town, talk to everyone so that they upgrade, and then do whatever in there, build your stuff. I never got tired of it. I just loved expanding that land. I would really like to see them expand on it even further with some kind of sequel where like, because it's only one lot that you can build your cult in. I'd really like to see if they could like expand it out so that you could like have larger areas with more people, because it did kind of seem a little limiting. But that's not to take anything away from it. It was a ton of fun. The combat felt really good at all times. There, when I played, which was probably a month or two after it released, there was still a few bugs in it. It didn't run particularly well, but I can't really take away just how much I enjoyed this game, and I really can't recommend it more to anyone, especially if you're into games with good feeling combat and then also a like building kind of thing in the cult area.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool game.
Hmm.
We're kind of just chugging along here. This might be a short podcast, but
It's fine. In the past, we've had our game of the year discussions go for like over 2 hours. We can have one that's a little short.
cool. So my number four game of the year is Pokemon Violet. Um, I just think it's a really good Pokemon game. Like problems aside, it has a lot of like bugs and like graphical issues. Um, I just I don't know. Like I love Pokemon as it is. But I don't know, something about Arceus didn't grab me as much. Like I like some of the stuff they were doing, but I don't know. This game I thought was awesome. The open world aspect of it is really cool. Being able to go and do whatever, you have three major tasks, right? Defeat the gyms, defeat Team Star, and the I forget what the third one's called. With the beasts, whatever it is.
Uh, yeah, to get the Herba Mystica or whatever.
Yeah. And the fact that the game throws you in and it's just like, hey, these are the three things that you can do them in whatever order you want. Don't do them at all. Like, obviously, you have to beat the gyms if you want to be able to like have higher level Pokemon and stuff, right? So, but I mean, like, it's just cool that it kind of throws you in and it's just kind of do whatever you want. Kind of very much the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild
Yeah,
type of mechanic in that sense. But yeah, I mean, I we have to bring up the issues the game has, right? Like all the
yeah.
graphical issues, the pop in, pop out, the frame rate being dog
Oh,
shit most
so
of the
bad.
time. And don't even think about frame rate when you go into the city because you'll
Yeah.
straight up, it's like a flip book when you go into town.
Mhm.
But yeah, overall, I thought it was a great game. Um, I really wish that those bugs were solved one way or another because that would make that would take the Pokemon franchise to another level. If this game like looked really good and like ran really well, you know what I mean? But yeah,
Yeah.
that is my number four game of the year.
Yeah, I don't. So I had Pokemon Scarlet. It's not on my list here, but I did enjoy it. I never finished it. I got all 8 gym badges. I think I defeated all but one Team Star base. I put so much time into it with guides and stuff that I'm just kind of like, I'll go back to it at some point. But it is enjoyable, and I love that freedom aspect that you were talking about. I really hope that they stick with that going forward. I was, of course, disappointed with all the bugs and the bad performance and everything, but the one area that I was really disappointed, the thing I loved about Arceus is that you could just like sneak around and throw Pokeballs at Pokemon to try and catch them
Endlessly. I
endlessly. Yeah.
went through so many Pokeballs in that game. just
Hmm.
throwing Pokeballs nonstop, trying to catch something.
Yeah. I don't know. I was really hoping that they would bring that back for Scarlet and Violet, and they just didn't. They completely abandoned it. Who knows that Legends Arceus was popular enough that I could see them making like a sequel to that specific game style in the future. But we also thought they were going to do that with Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, so who knows what they're going to do. I hope that they bring that aspect back at some point, but yeah, it's enjoyable. But we've said it all along. I'm so tired of looking at Pokemon games and going like, yeah, this is fun because it's Pokemon, but here's a list of issues of why it's not as good as it should be. All right, my number three is Horizon Forbidden West. So
Nice.
at first, I was thinking of having this a little lower on the list, but I started thinking back about how much I really enjoyed this game, and I had to put it on at the number three spot because when it first came out, I totally get. I remember saying like, yeah, this is good, but it's good because Horizon Zero Dawn is good, and it's just kind of Zero Dawn 2 essentially. It doesn't expand much on what the original had. It does in some areas, but not enough to like be like, okay, this is like a true like amazing sequel that it redefines the series going forward. It's just good and it's so fun. And recently I've been playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and it really I while thinking about this, I really started like comparing the two, and I'm like, man, these games are so similar with just like how the world is laid out, how you
It-
explore it, and
and
everything.
same thing with like Ghost of Tsushima, right? It's very similar. All three of those games.
Hmm. Yeah, it's just I can jump into Horizon Forbidden West and just spend hours doing side stuff. Where some games like that, I'd be like, okay, just get me through the story. I want to be done with it. Horizon Forbidden West, I'm like, yeah, I want to see everything. I want to do all I can. I want to upgrade all of Aloy's abilities and skills and her weapons and stuff. Get the best gear I can. It's just so much fun. I've also been very upfront about how much I love Ashley Birch. I think she's an amazing voice actress, and her job as Aloy is great. I think there's also a lot better side characters in this game. Uh, I can't remember all of their names right now because it's been so long since I played, but there's like some really hard hitting moments in there, and it's sad. It's more hard hitting than the original game is, in my opinion.
So
I
while this isn't on my list because I barely played any of it, I played like 4 or 5 hours maybe. I do want to give an honorable mention to Horizon Zero Dawn because that's the reason why I didn't play this game that much is
mhm,
because I had just played through Horizon Zero Dawn for the first time at the beginning of this year. And that game was amazing. It's like
yeah,
one of my favorite games ever, I would say. Like probably a top 20 game ever, just because like I
wow,
fell in love with that game so much.
yeah,
But yeah, and going from that and then like a week and a half later going straight to Forbidden West, it just like it was too much, right? Because they didn't change enough. It felt like I was just playing the same game and I was just
yeah.
kind of burnt out on it at that time cuz I kind of rushed to get Zero Dawn out of the way so I could play Forbidden West, and then when I got there it was like, "Oh man, I'm so burnt out on this gameplay or this kind of game right now. I don't really want to play it." But
Yeah.
yeah, Zero Dawn is amazing.
I was very glad to see that they announced an expansion for Forbidden West at the Game Awards. Um, that will definitely have me going back to play it some more when that comes out, whenever that is. I'm not sure if they have a
Tell you
release
what,
date.
John, I'll be playing that PSVR 2 Horizon game at launch, so
Yeah, the one
we'll
with
see what that is.
Call of the Mountain, I think it's called. Yeah. So I'm glad to see Horizon expand some more. We know there's a multiplayer game in the works as well as another single player game, plus the VR game that you just mentioned. And it's so stupid, but they're already talking about remaking that first one because Sony, I have no idea what's going through their heads right now. But man, Forbidden West is so good, and some people might be upset with my list, but it is my favorite PlayStation game of the year.
Sorry, what is?
Horizon Forbidden
Oh,
West.
oh. Sorry. I for some reason in my head I processed that as like your favorite game of the year, and I was like, wait, we're already at one?
No,
What are you talking
no,
about?
I was just saying that's my best PlayStation game of the year.
Gotcha. So my number three game of the year is a game I just started playing this week. And I've played about 10 hours of it since like Sunday, I think. And that game is Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. Um,
Wow.
so this is a remake of a PSP game from 2007, which when it came out into like I love Final Fantasy. I've talked to you about it before. I haven't played every Final Fantasy games, but the ones I have played, I like. I just fall in love with. Um, so when this came out in '07, I played it on my PSP, and I acted like I was sick 2 days straight to stay home from school, and all I did
Yeah.
was play this game. And at the time, I must have done everything there is to do in this game, because it's not a very long game. Like most people see Final Fantasy and think like, oh, that's like a 40, 50 hour game. This game, like, I'm 10 hours in. I haven't really done too much of the side stuff right now, but I'm 10 hours in. I'm right at the end of the game. Like
Mhm.
1 to 2 hours more, and I'll be done with the story. And I'll probably do a bunch of the side stuff as well, just because I love the game so much. Um, that being said, it being my third favorite game of the year, I can acknowledge that it's like a solid 72 out of 100 score. You know, like it's like a
Mhm.
7 out of 10 game because it's very much a 2007 game. Like the writing is super fucking cringe most of the time. Um,
That's kind
like
of
so
Final Fantasy though.
yeah, but like this feels like more extra cringe.
Gotcha.
Um, but yeah, so you have a cell phone in the game, but the cell phone is a flip phone because it's 2007, right?
Mhm.
Um, and that thing is blowing up nonstop the whole fucking game, John. You're like constantly getting like I don't know if they're supposed to be texts or emails. I think they're emails technically you're getting on your phone, but it's like every like it's all the like every 5-10 minutes you're getting an alert that you have a message, and granted you don't even have to read them at all, you can just ignore them the whole time, but I just think it's funny that you're constantly getting these like emails from everybody the whole time.
Mhm.
um, but yeah, I don't know, I love this game so much. It's basically a prequel to Final Fantasy VII. um, and if you played the Final Fantasy VII remake, that part one of three or whatever it's going to end up being, I think it's three, but um, at the end of that, they show part of the end of this game, which is weird. And I talked about it before.
Really.
It's just weird because it's like they're kind of doing their own stuff with the remake of Final Fantasy VII, and them showing the end of this game kind of hints at the stuff that they're doing, but we don't really know. But yeah, this
Gotcha.
game's awesome. I've always thought the protagonist of this game, his name is Zach Fair, and I've always thought he was so much cooler than Cloud. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't know. I love this game so much.
I don't know anything about this game. But did they add new content into it, or is this just a straight up port of the
Oh,
PSP game
it's just a remake or a remaster. Sorry.
remaster? Okay. Well, hey, I mean, you love it, so hey, go for it. That's awesome. All right. My number two game of the year is Kirby and the Forgotten Land. For a very long time, this would have been my number one, but something nudged it out quite a bit. This was definitely a game that I loved playing at the beginning of the year. It was Kirby's first 3D game, like full mainline 3D game. And it's been something I've been hoping that would come out for decades now for Kirby. Like even the Nintendo 64, which was like always throwing out just primary 3D games, Kirby's was still a 2D side scroller just in a 3D environment, which was cool for the time, but it was like this isn't that exciting. Um, it's definitely the move that Kirby needed. There's a I don't know. This game just does so much stuff that's cool. Like for one, they took all of the copy abilities and they actually let you upgrade them like permanently. So whenever you get those abilities, they're more powerful and have more uses, which I think is so cool. And I can't believe that that hasn't been done to this point. I hope that comes back in the future. Um, of course, for Kirby, the story is as batshit crazy as any other Kirby game, where it gets like
What is the
exceedingly dark.
story? I don't know what the story of Kirby is at all. I've never played through a full game.
It's too much to go through here, but you know how it looks all like nice and cheery and everything. This game kind of goes into a lot of like you're in this land that was just like ravaged by this monster and everyone left, and it's just like talking, it's like this area is now like left with all the people that were left behind, and now you have to like help them and stuff. It's a lot. But I think it's absolutely great. It was so much fun to play through. I haven't gone for 100% completion like some people have, but man, I've really considered it because it's just so much fun to play through this game. That's all I've got really.
I just remember them showing Kirby swallowing a car and the internet blew up
Yep, yep,
because
that
of
was
it.
a big thing. It I never really understood the mouthful mode thing because so you can do that to a car, a vending machine, um, a traffic cone, and it's not Kirby swallowing it. It's just him like putting his mouth over it and taking control of that item. Where usually he'd like swallow it and get that ability. He's not doing that here. He's not actually swallowing it. He's just putting his mouth on it, which is weird. There's also this really like super anime ending to the game where Kirby does that to a semi truck and he's like going to bash into the final boss of the game, and it's like pure Dragon Ball Z shit here where it's just like there's like these powers and they're like clashing together and there's all these sparks flying off and everything. It's insane. But
Weird.
man, it's so good, and uh I hope that the 2D Kirby games get a bit of a rest for a while, and I hope that we have just 3D games for a while. Even though we do have there's a remaster of the Wii, Return to Dreamland is coming to Switch next year, but I'm fine with that. But like when we're talking about brand new games, I really want another 3D game in the future.
Gotcha. So my number two game, we're on number two, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, so this is kind of surprising to me. If you asked me before I played it, I would have said no way. But my number two game is High on Life, which is very weird
damn.
because I don't watch Rick and Morty at all, right? So I don't really understand. I didn't really know the humor that is like Justin Roiland or Squanch Games. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I started playing this game and I pretty much binged it in the course of like 3 days, like 3 days time. Um, I don't know. I fell in love with it. I thought the humor was great. Uh, Granted, I started playing it after they put an update out that like shut the guns up a little bit more because I guess when the game first launched, the guns were very annoying and like would not stop talking. But they put out a patch that made it um they put out a patch that made it so that the guns don't talk as much as they did. So maybe that's why it didn't bother me as much, but I don't know. I love the game. The story was dumb. It was a quick play, like I don't know, 12 to 14 hours I think it took me to play
Yeah,
through it.
something like that. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was a ton of fun. I thought the graphics were pretty great on it. Um, just a simple kind of shooter game where you go and bounty hunt more or less. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
gameplay
know.
wise, it doesn't really do anything amazing. It's
No.
fine, and that's about it. If you're going into that game, it is because you like that Rick and Morty, Justin Roiland kind of humor. So you haven't watched Rick and Morty before, really, have
Uh,
you?
I've watched like one or two episodes ever.
Is that gonna push you into giving it a try?
Yeah, I'll definitely watch it at some point. I don't
Yeah,
even know where to watch Rick and Morty, honestly. Is it on
Hulu.
Hulu? I don't know.
It's on Hulu.
Okay.
I earlier this year, I gave it a try and watched up until I think a new season just came out. I watched up until that point, and yeah, it's just not really. There's moments of it where I'm like, yeah, this is pretty good, but not really my kind of humor. And
The,
that's just the thing with High on Life for me. It's I don't know, it's too much of what it is. And
yeah, so the thing for me um was like I saw, so I wasn't going to play it right when it came out. I played it like a week after it came out, I think. But I kept seeing TikToks of like a few different
oh my
things,
god,
but like
so many TikToks.
but you would see the TikTok like over and over from like five different content creators.
Yeah.
And so once that started happening on TikTok, I was like, all right, I thought it was funny the first time, but I keep seeing these, repeatedly. So I like every time I would see it on TikTok, I would skip it. And then eventually a week after the game came out, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna play it so that like I can naturally find these things in this world and not like get there in the game and be like, oh well, I saw this 20 times on TikTok. Um, but yeah, I
My
just like most of the time in the game when somebody started talking, I like felt like I wanted to sit there and hear what they had to say,
mm,
which I thought was really cool. Because like in most games, like an RPG, like Assassin's Creed or something, you just hear somebody off to the side talking. I just sprint right past them. But in this
I,
game, like the humor made me want to stop and hear what they were about to say.
mm, I sorry. I think TikTok spoiled the ending for me. Also, I think I've seen it at least 10 times. I, I
I've
don't
seen
I
that.
don't
It
I
didn't
don't know for
spoil it
sure
for
if it's
me.
the ending. I don't know for sure if it's the ending or not, but it very much feels like an ending from what I've seen on TikTok.
Is
I've
there a
also
famous person?
yes, two of them.
Yes. Then yeah, it spoiled the
Okay.
ending for you.
Okay. Um yeah, I don't know. It is what it is, but I really think I've seen all of that game that I need to because of TikTok. And I've seen it so many times. Like the when you first get the first gun and when he's like, okay, press whatever button, we'll try and figure out how to fire, and then you pause it, and
Yeah.
when you back out, he starts belittling you, like, when has pause ever been shoot and all that. I've seen that TikTok so many times, and it is so funny because the TikTok creators, obviously they knew about it because not that many people are gonna pause at that point, but
Yeah,
so
right
they
at the
do it
beginning
like,
of the game.
oh my god, look at what he did, that was so surprising. And it's like everyone knows about this now. Stop trying to put this off.
Yeah,
um yeah.
I love my time with the game. I definitely mainlined it though. I didn't really go and do too much side stuff. Like I wasn't just wandering around. I was pretty much just going for the objective most of the time.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think that if they do make a sequel of this game in some form, it needs to be about the same length because I can see if this game was 5 to 10 hours longer, I could see why it would
uh
like
that'd
it
be
would
way
annoy
too
the shit
much.
out of you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my number two game this year.
I haven't played it, but if you like this, you might also like Trover Saves the Universe. It's same company and everything, Justin Roiland
Is
and
that
all that.
the VR game? Is that
It
in VR?
it has VR for PSVR, but I believe that you can also play it without it.
Cool.
I haven't looked into it too carefully. All right. Time for number one. My absolute favorite game of the year is A Plague Tale Requiem. Oh my God. I love this game. I've talked a lot in the past about how much I enjoyed A Plague Tale Innocence. Back then, that was like one of my biggest surprises of 2018, I want to say, is when it came out. Maybe 2017. No, I think it was 2018.
I think it was
Um,
18.
yeah, this game does everything better. The story is so much better. The performances are amazing. I was really hoping the voice of Amicia would win Performer of the Year. Of course, we all got a 10-minute acceptance speech from Kratos instead. Um, yeah, it hits hard. There's those nice little moments where you're like, oh, yeah, they're doing what they can, and just the world's getting down on them. The side characters in this game are exponentially better than the first game as well. I loved listening to a couple characters named Sophia and there was an army guy. I can't remember his name right now. But playing with those two characters at your side and having them like help you get through the areas of the game was some of the best spots of that game. The ending isn't as bad as the first game either. That first
So
game takes a very weird turn.
I remember you telling me the ending of the first game is weird and like not great. So
Mhm.
that's why I was gonna ask you: is this ending kind of like make up for it in the long run of the story?
In the long term of the story, going on what happens in the first game, I mean that's really all that this game is about is dealing with Hugo's illness and why he can do what he can. Um, I don't think it's a spoiler now to say it right. What he can do.
I mean, you already told me before when I
Okay,
said I wasn't gonna play the game, and then I ended up
all
playing
right.
most of it.
Hugo can control the rats that are causing this rat plague, and that's pretty much what this story is about. It's he's got this disease called the macula, which kind of control uh, if his emotions are bad and everything. He like it gets worse, and it's like killing him. So the story is about like finding out more about that illness and uh, like seeing if there's some kind of cure for it while he's also like controlling the rats and everything. And they handle it so much better than they did in the first game. The first game, it just came out of nowhere. It was just like, okay, we've got this little kid, we're gonna protect him, he's a little sick, we don't know why, but there's this rat plague going on. Okay, we get through this, really good like stealth stuff and everything. And then boom, you're controlling a tornado of rats, and I'm like, the fuck was that?
Yeah,
um
AK is in the Twitch chat. He also loves this series. He
mhm.
said the only complaint he has about it is that there's no recap of the first game, which
That, yes,
is a
I
big deal for
100% agree.
me when playing a sequel to like a story-driven game. I think that it's kind of necessary, or at least has an option in the main menu, like God of
Yes.
War did. Um,
Yes.
because he said it just dumps you right the fuck in, and he couldn't
It does.
remember all the parts from the first game.
Yeah, I had a little bit of that as well. Luckily, I was able to remember it after a little bit. It all came back to me. Yeah, that is one big problem. You absolutely have to play the first game to understand what's going on in the second game, which sucks because that a recap in there would have been perfect. It would have been absolutely great. But that aside, I have no complaints about this game. I love the improvements to combat that they made for Amicia. She has a lot more weapons now. She can use alchemy to a bigger advantage now. You can just like make these jars full of this fire stuff and just throw them at guards and light them on fire and kill them. Yeah, it also like your upgrades aren't decided on like how you kill people and get like experience points and stuff. It's how you get through encounters. So, for example, you're in an area filled with soldiers. If you sneak past them, your sneaking stat will go up and you'll get more abilities there. If you go
That's
through
cool.
killing them all, you'll get more aggressive abilities. So, I really love that stuff as well. Man, I just absolutely love A Plague Tale Requiem. I cannot say more about how much I recommend this game, especially if you played the first game. I think it's absolutely beautiful. Yeah, Asobo Studios and Focus Entertainment. Um, they're not really known for much. I want to say they made Microsoft Flight Simulator. I don't know what else they've made, but they've absolutely got me hooked on A Plague Tale. Um, I can't wait to see what they do with it in the future. And I'm so happy to see that it was nominated for Game of the Year. We all knew it wasn't going to win. We always knew it was going to be either Elden Ring or God of War. But seeing a Plague Tale in there from like a double A studio, like that is amazing to see, and I was so happy to see them get recognized for it.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm still waiting on a sale on the first game. It was on sale a few weeks ago, and I waited too
Yeah,
long, and then
and
it was
I
off
told
sale.
you, I told you.
You did tell me to buy it right then and there, but I did not. And then the next day I looked and it was off sale. I was like, what the fuck? So moving on to my number one game of the year, it was God of War Ragnarok, which is no surprise. I played through the fuck out of that game when I got back from my honeymoon. Um, I love God of War so much. The new revitalization of the series has just been like great to me. I think both games tell a great story. Like I have issues with it, like we've talked about. Like it kind of drags on, I think, a little too long. Um, but I don't know. That could be because I mainlined it as well. Like maybe if I took the time to like do side stuff and everything, it wouldn't feel like the story dragged on as much. Because I was talking to a buddy who played it, and he said he did a lot of side stuff in between missions, and he did not feel like it dragged on. So it could just be that the story, mainlining the story itself, is what made it feel as long as it did. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I just love this game. I love this world. I really hope that they do something with it in the future, like a third game of some kind. Even though I know, like, without spoiling too much of the story, it kind of closes a loop, right? More or
Hmm.
less. So
Yeah.
who knows? Me and you have already talked about how playing as Atreus wasn't that great. Um, and I really hope that they don't make like a sequel where it's like that's all
I
you do
where
is play
you're
as
just
Atreus.
Atreus. Yeah, I'm right there with you. If you're gonna continue making God of War games, Kratos has to be at the front.
It wouldn't surprise me though, like the whole
It
passing of the
wouldn't.
torch thing. Like it's got
Yeah,
to happen sooner or later, right? Like Kratos is an old man now. Like yeah,
but he's a
fucking he
god.
whoops ass, but he's an old man.
He's a god, though. He doesn't have to die or age or anything. You can keep him right where he's at right now, and he'd be fine. Yeah, I have this on my honorable mentions list. It did not make my top five because I've mentioned how this game to me. All right, I totally recognize the story was great. Also, the gameplay was really good. Playing as Kratos was awesome. There's some awesome set pieces in there, like when you're carrying Freya's brother through the forest and it, the camera's in front of you while you're like running and there's all this destruction around you and everything. That's probably my favorite moment, second favorite moment of the game. Um, it was really, it has some really amazing moments in there. But man, this game felt like a chore to me at times. I was like, man, I just want to get through it. Playing as Atreus was not fun to me in most moments because I was like, I'm not really in love with this character. I think he's better than he was in the 2018 game, but he still like really annoys me with his decision making because he's a kid. I get it. He's a teenager and he's gonna make
he's
dumb decisions.
he's got a lot more issues than your typical like teenager too, because like he's a
Yeah,
fucking god and he knows it, so
and he's
he's like
fucking
cocky
Loki.
about it. He's
He's
cocky about
Loki.
it.
I get it. I totally understand it. That doesn't mean I have to like the character. I just, uh, yeah. I didn't go for like any side content. I went for like the first side mission, but man, those things just drag on. So I was just like,
The
man,
side missions are long. I will say that.
yeah. So I
I
decided to just mainline it.
Yeah, the main reason I wanted to just mainline it is to get it like beaten, because it was to a, like literally the day after I beat it, I saw a tweet that's like, "All right, I gave you guys enough time," and then it was just like spoilers for the whole fucking game, like four pictures that
Mhm.
spoiled the whole game, and I was like, "Well, like that's a shitty thing for somebody to do, but I'm glad I beat it because that would have really pissed me off."
Also, my one of my biggest problems with the game is the whole Brock and Sentry situation, which is great. I'm not going to go into what happens there, but they when you play as Atreus, you talk to Sentry. Is
Injury.
he and he tells you about a thing that happened. And then when you're playing as Kratos later on, and you're like, okay, I know why, I know what's gonna happen here. I know what's happened in the past, but this character doesn't. Like it's kind of backwards. I was like, why spoil that for me? That would have been so much cooler if I didn't know that was coming, and that just like dropped on me. And I don't know. I think the story in the 2018 game is better, in all honesty. I think it's paced better. I absolutely love that game. This one I still really like, but it's just not one of my favorite games of the year. I just can't do it.
Gotcha. AK said he didn't know that we play as Atreus in this game until just now.
Yeah, it happens a lot and for a very long time, so enjoy that. Um
Um,
yeah.
y- yeah, I don't know. I love the game. I think God of War is great. I love
Yeah.
Kratos as a character. I think it's a
Um
ton of fun.
all right. So honorable mentions and then kind of recap our top 5.
Sure.
All right. So do you have a list of honorable mentions?
I mean, I have games that I played.
Go for it. Just list them off.
um, Dying Light 2, Stay Human. I
Hmm.
like. It's not a great game, but I had fun like doing co-op and stuff with you guys. So that's definitely on my honorable mentions list.
Yeah, it was a good game. Yeah, I think I have it on mine as well. Yes, I do. Yeah, it was fun to play. There was some fun Easter eggs in there and stuff, just like the first one. I think I enjoyed the first one overall more, but the second one's good. It doesn't come close to my top 5 of the year, but it's definitely one that I'm like, yeah, play it.
Yeah. Another one for me was Nintendo Switch Sports. I know you're
Mhm.
not like a huge fan of the revitalization of Wii Sports, but I think it's fun. I think it's fine. I think that the technology is just different, so it plays differently. Cause like, I swear to God, I could have gone pro at bowling on the Wii, but
A lot of
my
people could.
my skills do not transfer over to the Switch, and I
Mhm.
still can't get it down. It feels like off in a way.
It does feel off, and I think that's why I'm a little disappointed in it this year, especially golf. Golf, when we did that Let's Play with Elise, I the swinging felt off to me. It wasn't the power meter was really hard to control, unlike the Wii Sports version. I'm still holding out hope for a baseball one because I that was my favorite game in the original. But the bowling is really good once I got a hang of that. I don't care about the sword game, Chambara, I think it's what it's called. And then the badminton and volleyball, I was like, this is just pretty much the same thing. It's like I don't care about this. Or badminton and tennis if volleyball's not in there, right?
No, volleyball's in there.
It is okay. All right, then there's like 3 games that are like the same thing. It's like badminton, tennis, and volleyball, where it's just like okay, hit the
No,
ball over the net, right?
volleyball's volleyball. You have to actually like bump it, set it, and spike it.
Okay, but all right. Well, fine. Badminton and tennis, it's like the same thing. It's just one
Yeah,
doesn't drop. Where I'm
yeah.
like,
No, yeah. I definitely
that
see that.
that didn't need to be in here. Um, but no, it's good. I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit too much of nostalgia for Wii Sports that's holding me back on that.
Yeah. That's pretty much where like the honorable mentions for me kind of cut off.
Okay. All right. Well, then I'll go through my list. I've got a bit of a longer list here, so I won't spend as much time. Sonic Frontiers. I really wanted to put it in my top 5. I think what they've done with Sonic is really great. It's the best Sonic story, the best utilization of Eggman yet. Um, really cool stuff. It's not one of the best Sonic games ever, I don't think, but it's a very good first step for whatever they're doing in the future, and I really hope that they do a good job of building on it. Yeah, I loved it. God of War Ragnarok and Dying Light 2 Stay Human. We already talked about those. Pokemon Legends Arceus. We talked about that with Pokemon earlier. I really liked the freedom of just like going around throwing Pokeballs at Pokemon that were just out in the wild. You weren't forced to battle everything and wait for all those animations to go through, like in Scarlet and Violet. Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. I got
You were
really,
obsessed. You were obsessed with that game
I
for a while.
I got really hardcore into this game, and I haven't been into Yu-Gi-Oh since I was like 10. Like it's been a very long time for me, but I got into it. I made a deck. I didn't spend all the time like learning all the new stuff that's come up since I stopped playing back in the day. But man, I really enjoy this game. And even now, I'll every now and then I'll go back and play it like on my phone and stuff because it's got cross progression and everything, so I can just take my deck with me wherever I go, and it's on like every console and
Oh, dude,
system.
I take my deck with me everywhere I go.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Um, what?
Nothing. I was just saying deck like it was my dick.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
oh yeah.
very clever.
I do have another game that like I is kind of an honorable mention if you have two friends to play it with.
Okay,
Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Extraction. Like
really?
I had fun playing that game with people. It's definitely not a game to play alone.
Yeah.
Um, and if it, I don't even know, is it still on Game Pass? I don't know. D-
probably.
don't pay more than like $10 for that game if you want to play it.
I don't think I
Um,
even tried it, in all honesty.
I just like co-op games that are like you could play that game for 10 minutes and complete a mission, or you could play it for like 3 hours and complete a bunch of missions. Right?
Hmm.
It's just one of those games that's kind of mindless to me. It's just cool to be stealthy and stuff. And
Yeah,
playing co-op is always fun to me.
yeah. Um, Continuing on with my honorable mentions, Tunic. It's a game I've talked about where if it didn't have the accessibility options, I probably would have hated it. But it was a really good game. Escape Academy. I've been wanting an escape room game, like a good escape room game, for a long time. I really enjoyed Escape Academy. I haven't beaten it. We did a let's play in it.
Would you consider that an escape room game? It's kind of
Oh yeah,
like
100%.
it's kind of like not fully an escape room game.
It's like the people that made the levels are like escape room artists. Like they make real world stuff. So I
But
100%
but but you're not confined to one room, right? Because like you go through
pretty
different
much
levels
are.
and stuff.
But yeah, the levels are the room. It's just like it's like multiple rooms and stuff. They're like really big escape rooms. Is what I'm looking at. That's how I see it. Um, Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. I'm not a big Star Wars fan, but I really enjoyed this game. Going through the story, I haven't even watched episode 9. So playing through this game is all I know about that story and everything.
I mean, that's
Um,
pretty much all you need to know.
yeah. Um, yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was funny. It was great to play. Lego games are really simple and everything, and this was just a lot of fun to play. I just wish it had online co-op. I think that would have been really that would have really pushed it further for me. Is if I could play with someone else who was enjoying the game. But the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. I always knew about the Stanley Parable, but I never played it before. So this game has that, but it like also adds on kind of an expansion that works as a sequel with it. It's super meta. The narrator is really funny. I love going for all the endings and stuff. Uh, Absolutely enjoy it if you're looking for like a very out there game. Splatoon 3. We've talked a lot about how we enjoy Splatoon. It's not something that I will like go into the campaign and play. I only care about the multiplayer stuff and the Splatfest. uh, Also, my first experience with what's the is it Splat Runs? Salmon Run? Salmon Run.
That salmon run.
Yeah. My first experience with those PvE missions was really good. Um, yeah, it's definitely a game I'm gonna keep like going back to for the immediate future. As Dusk Falls, great story. Kind of ends a little rough, but it was
I'm
fun.
currently playing through that with
I saw
Elise.
I saw you on it. Yeah, you're doing the co-op.
Yeah, we got two controllers. I like that we can both select different things, and it kind of will randomly choose
That
the answer.
that is really cool. I like that.
I
I
will
only played it
say,
solo, but
so that game, it has an option you can have up to 8 people playing co-op. I
yeah,
can't even imagine how hectic that gets.
I think the Dark Pictures games do that too, and I'm like, wow, that is a
It's like
lot for
so
solo.
many. I feel like that'd be really cool to like watch somebody streaming play with 8 people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, I don't like the art style in it at all. Yeah, I think you've said before it's like something you either love or you hate. I completely agree. But yeah, it's a good game. 2 Point Campus. I've talked a lot in the past how addicted I got to 2 Point Hospital. I don't think this game is as fun as 2 Point Hospital, but I did enjoy it for what I played of it. And then Rumbleverse, one of my more surprising games of the year. Because when they first announced this, I was like, oh, it's just a melee Fortnite. And that's really all it looks like. But I played it with my friend Jake, and we got
From
into it.
State Farm.
Yeah, him. How'd you know? um, we got into it pretty good during the first month or so that it was out. I haven't played it in a while, but the wrestling combat is a lot of fun, and yeah, I
That
recommend.
that's the problem with a lot of these like live service games is I feel like they have a really big following at first, and then everybody drops off of them,
Yeah,
and then like a year and a half later, it's like, oh, we're shutting down our servers.
yeah. I have no idea if people are still playing it, but I enjoyed it when I played it. Don't know if it's one I'll go back to anytime soon, but it was fun. I also I think the max people you can have on a team is two, which I think kind of uh, if you have multiple friends on, you're obviously not going to play that. You're going to play something else where all of you can play together.
True.
Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed. My first experience with this game. It's a remaster of the or a remake of the original Destroy All Humans 2. Um, Loved it. A lot of fun. And then my last one here, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge.
Cool game.
I haven't gotten a big chance to play with people, but I started playing it with my daughter and we both really enjoyed it, even though we're not really into TMNT. I would like to play that with like you or actual people that know what they're doing. But it's a really fun brawler, and there's not many of those these days.
John, there's a game missing.
Oh,
Why
it,
is Overwatch
what?
2 not on your list
I was
at all?
expecting you to bring this up. Yes. All right. So I reviewed Overwatch 2. I got early access to it. I absolutely love Overwatch 2. I gave it a 10 out of 10 in my review. I think it's a brilliant game. The state it is in right now, it is not a full sequel. It's not a full game. This was an update to Overwatch 1, and I don't count it as a brand new game this year. So that's why I didn't include it. Maybe next
Okay.
year, when the PvE story mode and the hero missions comes out, maybe I'll include it in my list then. But in my opinion, I'm looking at it as it's like an early access game or just a plain update to the game I've already been playing for 6 years. I I can go all day about like talking about the differences that they put in there to make it worth playing, and I think it's a great game. I've enjoyed playing it with my friends who just got into it because it's a free to play game, and they're like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll download it and give it a try. But when I look at it as the best video games that released this year, I can't say that it's a brand new game for me. I've played it for 6 years.
Yeah, it's basically is just an update with like new how would you it's like you put like a graphical mod on Overwatch 1 and
Mhm.
then made it 5v5 and added a few new heroes and
Yeah.
maps
Yeah, which is stuff that we were getting in the first game anyway. Like
that they
that
just
was
pushed out.
it did not need the yeah, they held all of that so that Overwatch 2 would feel like a new game, but it still doesn't. It just feels like when it released, it was a very big update. So yeah, that's why it's not included in my top 5 or my honorable mentions.
Good to know. Let's just do a quick recap. My number 5 was Destiny 2 The Witch Queen DLC. My number 4 was Pokemon Violet. Number 3 was Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. My number 2 game of the year was High on Life. And my number 1 game was God of War Ragnarok. What were yours, John?
My number 5 was Vampire Survivors. My number 4 was Cult of the Lamb. Number 3, Horizon Forbidden West. Number 2, Kirby in the Forgotten Land. And my number 1 game of the year is A Plague Tale Requiem.
And there you go. Those are our 2022 games of the year. Yeah, let us know what you think of those games in the comments. What was your favorite game of the year? Um,
Is it
yeah, I like,
blasphemy that I didn't have God of War on mine? Is it blasphemy that neither of us mentioned Elden Ring one time?
dude. Not even we didn't. Not even one. Not even honorable
Okay.
mention. Nothing. That
Oh,
game is literally like I have it on my games of the year list, but it's like as far down as it can go in terms of the games that I played this year.
yeah, right. Yeah,
Um,
so that is our final show for 2022. Thank you so much to everyone who's been along for the ride, watching us, subscribe to us on YouTube, and all that. Next week, we will be doing our predictions for 2023. So be ready for that, Joel. Are you ready for
predictions of what? Like what games we think are coming out?
what's going to happen and all that? Yeah, we did. We've done this the last couple of years, so you should know. Just any predictions, whatever.
I think that
Don't give it away now.
I think that Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom? Tears?
Tears.
I
I'm
think
crying.
I think it's going to be a very bad game. So we'll be right back here next week for episode 215 to talk about that. Bye.
Bye.